we're gonna go ahead and service my fiance's beautiful Triumph Speedmaster. I think we're due for the first service. I have no idea how many miles we have, but that's gonna be the first thing we check for, because before we get started, I kind of discovered that it's a good idea to just use this instead of some app and just log all our services in the owner's manual, which I did with this guy, and I will do with this guy. So we'll record the mileage and today's date and kind of go from there. Here's what you need. You're gonna need Triumph's 10W50 full synthetic. It's gonna apply pretty much to every one of these 1200 parallel twin engines that's found in their classic lines. Triumph oil filter and an oil filter wrench. Besides that, trusty drain pan, low profile, especially for a bike like this, and a ratcheting wrench. In this case, we're gonna use a 3/8 drive, so it'll work with both the filter wrench and my 8mm hex bolt or hex socket to remove the drain plug. Stick around, let's see what we can do. Okay, with the mileage recorded, first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna undo this fill plug. Now there's an O-ring that sits right over here for a proper seal. So just be mindful of that when you pull it out. All right, probably wanna get on your bike at some point before you start looking for ways to undo it, and look for the drain plug and the oil filter, and on this one, seems to be right there. All right, not enough clearance there. It was kind of a pain to get it out, especially when it's hot, but came out just fine. Sitting right here. This drain plug is not magnetic, so I will need to check my oil filter pretty carefully. I might even have to cut it open. Something worth noting, if you don't have a lift and you can't upright the bike, when it's draining, once the initial flow is kind of like dwindled, I like to just get on the bike, upright it, and sit on it for a while just to make sure the oil drains out properly. And you know, these things are designed for the oil to drain out when it's standing straight up. So that's exactly what we're gonna do. About 5 minutes, I'll go in there, make sure the dripping is stopped, and reinstall my new plug, or the old plug with the new crush washer, and we won't torque it until the very end, or until before filling it. Okay, looks like it has significantly slowed down. It's still dripping a little bit here and there, but we're gonna come back to this guy, and first thing is to replace this. But before we do, let's go ahead and give this a good cleaning. Make sure it's not all oily and nasty, and then yeah, it's gonna start picking up the grime from your rides off the road, and that is gonna get caked up. You don't want that, so just, you know, clean as much as possible. Make sure it's not all oily when going back in. And then once you've given it a good wipe down, new crush washer goes in. Then we're gonna hand tighten this. We're gonna go slow. Make sure there's no cross threading. All right, this was hand tightened in. Just went slowly. Remember, you don't want to cross thread any of this stuff. And once your fingers start slipping off of it, it's pretty snug in there. You can let it go. And then we're gonna move on to this guy, which I have no idea how I'm gonna get the clearance here, but let's give it a shot. What's the worst that could happen? I'm just gonna make a mess. For anyone who wants to know, this is Triumph's part number for their oil wrench. All right, with the filter out, we're gonna let the rest of the oil come out of that filter receptacle and drip as much as possible. So just like last time with the drain plug, we're just gonna get on the bike, upright it. Once this is done, same deal. I'll clean the area, inspect to make sure none of the rubber gaskets came out, or all the rubber gasket came out with the oil filter. The new oil filter we'll go ahead and fill with some oil. Make sure we put some oil on the rubber gasket that sits up top and the threads. Then we'll hand tighten it in there. Just make sure we don't cross thread it, just carefully. Then we'll go ahead and hit it with the torque wrench and get the bike ready for refill. All right, old oil filter is right here. It looks like everything came out of it with the rubber gasket here sitting on top. So we're gonna go ahead and make sure that we fill this up a little bit and lubricate the top right here and the threads before I hand tighten this back into the receptacle. I have no idea why. I was under the impression there's just 4 containers of a liter each, just like the BMW. And it's a bag of oil. So I really don't know how I'm gonna manage this just with one hand and pour some, especially with the oil filter, at least with the filler cap. I'll go ahead and have a funnel just to make sure I don't make a mess, but I don't know, we'll see. I don't think I'm ever gonna buy this from Triumph again. I need like normal containers, like normal people. I don't know why it comes in a bag, but here we are. So we'll get the oil filter in and go from there. All right, this thing sucks for pouring. I have no idea who thought this was a good idea, but it's a good idea apparently. I just tried to pour a little bit in here and we made a mess. So, but I got a bunch of oil in there, so I'm gonna go ahead and lube the threads and then make sure I have a good amount over this little rubber gasket right here before I put the filter back in. I really got to clean this thing up. It's just covered in, there's a bunch of oil on the outside of it, and I'll hand tighten it in and go from there. This is going to be a fun pour. All right, oil filter first. We're going to do 10 Newton meters. That's 7.37 foot-pounds or 7.38 foot-pounds. I think I got it dialed in here right, but yeah, no, it's dialed in right. So go ahead and hit that first, and then we're going to go 25 Newton meters over on the drain plug side. And that's it. Okay, bottom's torqued, and we're just gonna start filling this up. It's supposed to take about a gallon, 3.8 liters. And this bag of oil has 4 liters. So I'm gonna put as much as I can and save a little bit at the bottom. I might have to take that bag out of the box if it's gonna make my pour easier, but we will see. We're gonna go slow, make sure it doesn't get backed up. Make sure the oil has time to, just go through the engine and not spill over just like I did earlier today. All right, give that a good cleaning, and I'm just gonna go ahead and put it on, not tighten it like crazy. And again, just like with the bottom, just go slow, don't cross thread. It's a piece of plastic, probably not very expensive, but why waste it? I gotta upright the bike and get an oil read. There's a couple of notches at 9 o'clock and 3 o'clock. I guess the level's supposed to be kind of like flat within those notches. I'm just gonna go ahead and fire this thing up. I don't think it'll start. Yeah, it won't start without the clutch. Let it run for a couple of minutes, then I'll shut it off, let the oil kind of collect at the bottom again, and I'll measure the level. We're gonna check the oil level. I don't know if you guys can see that, but the bike is about as upright as I can make it, and it's a little over full. I think that's good enough. The notches, I'm not sure if that's the minimum level or ideal level, but I do see, I don't know if you guys can see that, a little bit of space up there, so that gives me some confidence in what was done. I can barely see it. But yeah, as upright as I can make it by myself. Pretty straightforward job from the looks of it and from actually doing it, so would recommend it. Only thing I'm not doing today is resetting the wrench, which isn't even on, because I guess it comes on at 600 miles. I don't have dealer tool, and I don't have, I think, what's it called, ECU tune, that you can only get on an Android, and I don't have a single Android device at the house. So maybe on the next service I'll go ahead and purchase that. I think it comes with like a 1-year license, so we can reset the service reminder and just be done. But yeah, straightforward. Everything's logged in the book. Bottom was torque to spec. There they are. And this guy, just hand tight. And then a bag of oil. Probably save it just to have it. Never know. An oil top off's not a bad idea if it ever dips. Anyway, thanks for watching.